Hey, I'm Dr. Eyal Ronen, and this is the Partnership Kitchen, where smart relationships learn how to grow again. And if you think that any slowness that you're feeling in the growth of your company is because of your product, the market, the economy, I'm here to tell you that you're looking at the wrong place. We're going to talk also about the relationship between technology and partnerships, and there is one. We're going to talk about one of the largest consulting firms in the world, Gartner, you may have heard of it, and we're going to talk about a few things that you can do pretty easily to improve and grow your business. Let's get started. So first, before anything else, I'd like to introduce you to what is known in the technology world as the Gartner hype cycle. The hype cycle is a graph that shows the natural progression of the development of any new technology in any field. So you'll see that in the field of AI, you'll see that in the field of VR, you'll see that in any banking, computing, any field in technology, there is a Gartner hype cycle for that. And the hype cycle shows us that technology in any field behaves in a predictable way over time. So the graph looks always at two things. It looks at time, and it looks at the level of hype. So the higher you are here, the higher the hype. And I want to argue that the same exact thing that you will see for any technology is what also happens in partnerships and really in any relationship. So here's what happens, and you can think about technology or you can think about your partnership, your relationship. So what happens is that initially there is some trigger, something happens that creates or invites the formation of new technology or of your partnership. So if it's a family partnership, then there's a relationship that happened. Or if it's a company, then it's two people that came together and they have this idea. Or they go to school together and then they meet and they think that it's a great idea to bring to life something. Or it's just an idea of something that they want to bring out to the world. So there's this trigger. And then they start working together. They start building the company, building the foundation, and over time, you see that they're creating more and more joy of working together. There's this beautiful flow, and the hype around that keeps growing and growing and growing pretty rapidly. So we're working together, we're excited. It's the garage stage, if you know what I mean in terms of a new startup. Well, it's a selfless period almost, where they all put everything they can into it. And then we get to this peak. But it's not just any peak. It's the peak that we call the peak of inflated expectations. So a peak is good, but you know what happens after a peak? Something starts getting shaky. Something makes people think, did I make the right decision? Did I pick the right partner? Do I have the confidence that we can actually do what we want to do? Is my partner pulling the same amount of weight as I am? And this awakening, this doubt, starts causing a rapid decline in this hype and in this joy. And during this period, you start feeling these different complaints inside of you, like they're not doing enough, or I don't think we can do this, or the market doesn't really want what we are offering. And then as a partnership, you start losing faith in your ability to work together and to execute. And you get into a really down stage. This down stage is where a lot of friction happens, maybe fighting or avoiding each other, trying not to have these tough conversations. And this is where I see a lot of partners get to the point of splitting up. And this splitting up stage, or the fear of splitting up, the ability to split up, is something that happens pretty often. In fact, I recently did an informal poll on LinkedIn approaching a few hundreds of people who have co-founder in the title of their LinkedIn profile. And you know what I noticed? More than 50% of them, although they have co-founder listed, have split up from their partners. 50%! You know why that is? That's because from this peak of inflated expectations, they got to what we call the trough of disillusionment. We suddenly realized that that honeymoon period was just a honeymoon, but it's not the reality. The reality of a partnership is that if you don't work at it, if you don't improve it, if you don't use structured processes, you'll end up splitting up. And that's a trough of disillusionment. But the good news is that there is a way out. So if you decide that your partnership is really important and you start working on it, you start improving it, you invest in it, you learn how to communicate better, you learn how to create a shared vision, you learn how to deal with friction, you learn how to really work with different personalities, understanding that those expectations that you had were inflated, but there is something that is called the reality, and you create a new partnership between the two of you, the same 2 or 3 partners, same people, just a new agreement. Then you can get through this slope of enlightenment, and that's what this is called, a slope of enlightenment. That's that steady work that you work on pretty much daily to get to the next stage in the partnership, which is what we call the plateau of productivity. Okay. The plateau is not as exciting as the peak of inflated expectations, but this is where we have learned how to work together. We learned that if we join forces, if we align our values, if we really focus on improving the relationship by investing in it, by practicing, by not avoiding those dark corners, but rather shining light on them, then we can get to a pretty stable and hopefully long-term phase in our relationship. It's the plateau of productivity. And this is what allows you to get to what we call scaled leadership. Because if we as partners are aligned on our vision, we know where we're headed, we know how we lead together, there's a really clear division of labor, we know who's responsible for what, then we can lead the entire company into greater success. And I think that now you realize that when you look at your company and you see that slowness that I mentioned in the beginning, it's not just because of product, marketing, finances. It's often because you've not achieved this level of scaled leadership. And it takes work. And you know what? One more thing that you need to know. This is not your fault. I've seen this graph, the hype cycle, in almost every partnership. So if I ask you today, how do you feel about your partnership? You'll tell me, I feel, a 6 out of a 10 or a 9 out of a 10. My next question will be, so where do you think you are on this graph? Did you just form the partnership or about to form it? And maybe now you're gonna have these amazing energies of working together, but you really are getting to the peak of inflated expectations. If that is the case, know that the next thing that will happen is you will get to the trough of disillusionment, because slowly you'll start questioning the validity of the partnership. Did you do the right thing? Is everything okay? And if you're able to focus on this area and get out of it, communicating better, creating a shared vision, getting into flawless orchestration of everything that is happening inside your company, in your partnership, then you can one step at a time climb through this slope of enlightenment and get to the plateau of productivity. Whatever you do, before you split up, because splitting up is so expensive, emotionally and financially, stop for a second and ask yourself this question: where are we on the graph? Because maybe all we need to do is get out of this trough, out of this down point, and we can get eventually to the plateau of productivity. And if that's the case, invest in your partnership, work on it a little bit more. Don't avoid those tough conversations. Find the right structure, find the right people to support you, and it can get better. I'm not saying every single partnership should be saved, but if you're splitting up, just validate that it's not just a point in the natural progression of any partnership. Good luck, and I'll see you soon.